It felt like my soul had been someplace else for a really, really long time.
I entered into the eye of the storm of grief that I had been carrying. I began to cry.
The littlest thing would just send me into an anxiety spiral that, like, it's just one little thing. Why is this little thing ruining my day?
Eleusinia is a unique psilocybin retreat based in Mexico with a focus on meditation, neuroscience, and brain health.
I had zero doubt that this was something that I was going to go through and actually do.
That self-compassion sort of has trickled into every little part of my life.
I hadn't laughed that hard in so long.
The profoundness with which I experienced like reality, the magnitude of the beauty was just completely overwhelming.
Johnny, so fantastic to see you again. Can you tell us a little bit about who you are and why you decided to come to Eleusinia?
Sure. My nickname is Johnny B. That's what my friends call me. And I am every man. I am every man who was in their 50s, who was just stuck on every single level. Am I coming too fast and too hard for you? I was stuck on the level of medical-wise. I've had 3 heart attacks. They thought I had several strokes, but actually those were vestibular migraines. I have migraines that put me in stroke-like conditions. I've got an ice pick migraine. You and I have talked about that, which is, almost like suicide migraines and stuff. So medically, I've had a tough go of it. Mentally, in my head, come from the streets of Boston, where I was born and raised. A lot of violence, a lot of segregation, racial tension, forced busing. I know I sent you some pictures, and we talked about that briefly as well. And spiritually, I know there are better things out there than just taking the medications they wanted to give me for my headaches and give me for all my different mental, maladies. And it was actually the Mayo Clinic who broke it down to me, that they drew this circle and they put a cross in the middle of it and sectioned it into 4 different pieces of a pie. And they said, Western medicine is you get sick, they diagnosed it, we give you pills, you get better. He said, but in reality, and this is the Mayo, one of the greatest hospitals in the world, he's like, in reality, and he dissected the pie a couple of more times, and he just talked about being holistic and just how there are greater things. And they taught me how to breathe, and they created a breathing apparatus to help me control my migraines. And it immediately gave me some relief. And when I said, man, why isn't this being marketed? Why don't more people know about this for migraine relief? The doctor looks me in the eye and says, because nobody can make money off it. This has been around forever. And it just let me know that there are cures out there for me that don't have to be made in a lab. And it wasn't until I had some shoulder surgery. I had sheared my labrum. I had sheared my bicep. I had what was known as Popeye arm. My bicep literally was just hanging around my elbow. And I had been in a sling and have to have major 5-hour surgery. I was in a sling for 5.5 months, and the pain just changed me. And there was just so much pain before all of that. At one point in time, my neck had disintegrated, and they had to they opened me up and put a bracket in there. When they were about to do that, the night before they were about to do that, as they were giving me some tests, I had a heart attack on the table. They sent me home. Within 4 days, I had my appendix rupture. So this was all within like a 48-hour period. My neck's still all messed up. I have the appendicitis surgery. They leave a piece in me. I go septic within 4 days. I got a stump inside of me. And that almost killed me. They ended up cutting me open. I got a 12-inch scar running down the front of me, nicked my colon while they were in there. So just medically was having a really bad time. Rolled into COVID. My wife's dad, who lived with us, he had a head strike. We had to hospice him. He passed away. My mom, who was in a nursing home, of the 32 people on her wing, 30 passed away. She lived, but her dementia got so crazy. She had sundowners calling us up at 6 o'clock every night. My husband's trying to kill me. Husband's trying to kill me. She passes away from that. Then my wife's mother passes away from that. My wife breaks her ankle. She breaks her wrist. I do my shoulders. So am I babbling now? I just had the weight of the world, and pain had changed me. My patience was done. I had none. I was snapping at everybody. And the lead up to coming to see you guys, and I had already booked my trip. And please excuse me if I cry like 9 times through this thing. I had locked myself in my room. I told my family I was stepping back. And my wife within a day told me I wasn't stepping back, I was stepping away. I was just drawing inside. I couldn't handle the pain anymore. Because with shoulder surgery, you can't lay down, you can't roll over, you can't get comfortable, which is 5 months of that. I was at a crisis. I was at a crossroads on all 3 levels that you could be on. There was no relief. I've been through therapy. I was going through couples therapy with my wife just because of these problems that were happening. The line just came that I was kind of sick of my wife's shit and she was sick of my shit. And as a family, we had decided that we were all going to do some therapy. And it was true. My son went into therapy. My daughter went into therapy with her family. And it was just a healthy thing. I had, and I don't know if I can say his name, you might be able to edit it out, but I had heard this line from Bill Burr, the comedian who's known as the Angry Boston Comic. And, being from Boston, that resonates with me. They asked him, like, so the things you talk about with anger, and Burr says, I don't do anger anymore. The moderator says, what do you mean you don't do anger anymore? And he says, I've come to realize that when I get in those dark situations, one of three things is going on with me. Either I'm saying something that I don't want to say or don't believe in, which is me. I am forced to be doing something I don't want to do, which is me. That's when I rebel. Or I'm scared. And that's totally me. And the moderator then says to him, well, how did you come to these realizations? And he just picked three of my things that I needed to work on. And so here comes the magic pill. And then Burr he doesn't say it right off the bat. He hesitates because there's a stigma to what he's about to say. And he sheepishly says, I took some mushrooms. I found out what I was sitting on. And I worked it all out from there. Yeah, it was as simple as that. I took some mushrooms. And anybody can go on Instagram and find this. So I'm not quoting this off the cuff or anything. You can find that interview. And that was what I needed to hear. I needed to find out what I was sitting on. And my wife, who sometimes I lovingly refer to as the Department of War and Finance, went in and tried to find me a place to go do my mental health retreat. They had their place. They were all doing their thing. I needed mine. And she found you guys. And she gave it the sniff test. And her sniff test is the best sniff test in the world. And she said, book it. And just carte blanche, just book it. And I'm like, no, I need to research. I need to just look. I need to find out. And I was going through a lot of the literature, and I came across one of the things that's on your guys' site, or it was one of the podcasts where the gentleman says, listen, after this, I let people get in front of me in traffic. And I turned to my wife at that point in time, because Vegas traffic, right? I want to commit 32 acts of homicide just coming from the strip back home by the end of the day, right? So I turned to my wife and I'm like, I can let people come in front of me in traffic. We're going to book this thing. She was like, you should book it. And that's how I got to come see you guys, was because I felt that your scientific bent with your holistic roots, right? Everything is based upon, but scientific stuff we're still figuring out, but the roots of this medicine is documented, and it goes back centuries. So very excited to be able to come down and see you guys and have both that it wasn't just a, hey, go to Jamaica and fool around and do it. You guys really, and what you promised, what you delivered was 10 times above that, but I might be getting ahead of myself. But that's who I am. I'm a kid from the streets of Boston who was broken on all different levels. I think the first thing I said to you, because I was the first person to talk with you out of the group, and I said, my nature and my nurture don't match. And then you walked me to Josefina, and then my world changed.
Well, let's start there then. What happened with Josefina that really resonated with you?
So everything you read about, all your podcasts, it's almost trying to describe a mushroom trip itself. So you walked me over. I sat down and do my medical integration with you, which was awesome. There was a lot of medical stuff to go over, and you took your time with me. And I was the first in the barrel. I was the first person with you. So I was the first person to go see Josefina. And you walked me into the pool room, and she is just the sweetest woman. You immediately feel a presence by her. And she says, can I do an exercise or something? I'm paraphrasing, but she says, she asked for permission if she can do an exercise. And I say, yes. And I don't want to say what the magic of that exercise is. It only took 5 seconds, 10 seconds, 30 seconds at best. She looked at me and she just said, so bitter and yet so sweet. And I'm still having breakdowns over that. Like, she nailed me within seconds. You guys hadn't talked to me. You guys didn't know me. This wasn't on a questionnaire. I mean, you and I only had 5 minutes worth of a call. There was no way she could have nailed that. Later on that night, when I went back to my room and I text my wife and she's like, how was it? And I just put bitter and sweet. And my wife put up the field goal sign, the emoji, the field goal sign, like she just nailed. And what she said to me was, you're trying to do so much good in your life, but there was so much bitter hanging off of you that everything just has that stench on it. And she's so right. I was so fed up with everything. And let me say this. There were 13 other people behind me that got different things said to them. And there was not one of them that didn't say life-changing experience, nailed me within seconds. There was just a power. There was no way that could have been premeditated. She is special. I would be willing to pay $4,000 an hour just to have her hang out with me and just be the calm, cool, collected person, but just the mystical the mystical person she is. She changed my life within a few words. She changed my life 2 or 3 times over the course of the weekend. Just noticing me being in distress and just giving me tools to cope in the long run. She gave me probably the most powerful medicine I've ever had in my entire life by the end of this. So you come pick me up. So after she does all this stuff to me and I'm in tears, like totally broken down, you come get me because you're bringing in the next guest and you're taking me out of there. And I turn to you and I say something like, man, it's got to be great if you see people go in this place one way and they come out like I came out a different person. It was like a sheet had been torn off of me. And what that really did, and your cadence, the way that you have her set up first, to me, was like it ripped a sheet that I had over me of protectiveness for 50 years. Like just having her nail me and say, bitter and sweet, there's some stuff going on inside of you. You want to be great. You got stuff bringing you down. It was like a zipper went down the front of me and a layer just flew right off of me. And I became raw in your compound because your compound is just this beautiful, full of love place. And I was totally uncomfortable with that. I was uncomfortable with the love that I had there. I was uncomfortable with the beauty. And until she really kind of just said, John, you can be beautiful here without that stink, I had never felt like anything like that in my life. I was never able to really be myself. All my anxiety went away at that point in time.
Wow. Thank you. Thank you for sharing that. So let's get into the morning of macrodose day. Where was your head at before you ingested the mushroom? So you guys are all sitting at the big yoga structure, El Nido, the nest, and you're about to ingest. How are you feeling?
I totally messed up. I felt horrible. I did not tell you guys I felt horrible. So the night before we're doing the orientation and you guys are like, listen, you guys need to act like your 5-star guests. Don't be nice. If you need a blanket, ask for a blanket. If you're uncomfortable, say you're uncomfortable. If you need to move around, and I won't give away the word because that's part of the fun, let us know. And I didn't do that. So let me roll back a couple of days. So I've had the shoulder surgery. In that shoulder surgery, they drilled a hole in my shoulder and they put in a hook that'll be there forever. And then they hung my bicep and my shoulder on that hook. So any movement, any shaking created level 7 pain. Okay. So now I'm an idiot. Let me start with that. And I did not do my passport right. So the day before I'm about to come see you guys, the day before I'm about to get on the plane in the morning, I don't have a passport. And I had called Jessica and Jay and they're like, listen, call the State Department. And I won't go through all the minutia, but you have to go to the State Department that's closest to you that has availability. Mine was in Tucson, Arizona, 7 hours away. So I drove there. 7 hours, rumbling my shoulder the entire time in that car. Did my 2 hours there, 7 hours coming back, 4 hours on the plane, shaking my shoulder the entire time. I am in agony. We get on the bus to come see you guys. Hours on the bus. I am in agony. I do not sleep well the night before. We go through the most beautiful ceremony in the most beautiful place. I'm speechless by the beauty, and all I could feel was the searing pain in my shoulder. So the ceremony starts. We're going to start doing breathing. We're going to start doing a little yoga. We're going to open up all our things to be acceptable. And never once, I should have said, you know what? I'm in pain. Is there any way for me to open up any way other than doing that? I fought through the pain, and I swear to God, I was the last person to take the paste. And the last thing I said to myself was, God, I just wish this fucking pain would go away. Right? And I'm literally crying right now because I'm back at that point. And that was the last thing I said to myself. So I went in expecting this big psychedelic experience, and then it was gonna, I was gonna find out what I was sitting on and all this other stuff. And I didn't realize that what I really needed was to be out of pain. And that was how the ceremony started. And I had taken the paste. And do you want me to just roll right through how it went from there?
Yeah. What were your first effects after you took the paste?
So I was cold. We were sitting by the fireplace, and I'm like, all right, let's get up and do the walking meditation, which is awesome because you're on this little slope for everybody who's listening at home, and you are in just this meadow of sun and light, and it is beautiful, and it is gorgeous. And there's a little church structure over there, and there's a babbling brook over here. And I start walking over to where the hot house is there. There's a little bridge over there. And I'm sitting in the sun, and I look down, and I'm looking at this little gravel, and then all of a sudden, it just kind of pirouettes on me. Like I'm getting the first feeling. So I'm about 15 minutes in, and I'm getting the first feeling of hallucinations. And that would be one of only 2 hallucinations that I had throughout the entire thing. And I want to go on record right now saying is those folks that say, I don't like losing control of myself. I don't like being out of myself. That's the reason why you wouldn't do this retreat. I was never out of my mind at any point in time. I see this little, oh my God, I think this is kicking in sign, and I go lay in the hammock. And within 10 minutes of laying there, I'm feeling kind of comfortable. I'm feeling like I'm about to take off. And all of a sudden, Jessica shows up next to me and she's like, John, describe to me what you're feeling. And I'm like, I'm looking at this purple flower on these bushes over here. And it's magnificent. And she goes, John, there's a lot of purple flowers on that bush right there. And I'm like, awesome. They'll be easy to find later on. So she leaves me alone. And I think the trip is about to start. And then my mind put in order what it needed to work on first without my permission. I thought I needed to work on the deaths of parents and the heart attacks and my relationships. And just, I thought I needed to work on all of that. And right across from where the hammock is the fucking forest. I mean, it is the Mexican mountain forest right there. And I watched those branches. So I looked at that forest and I heard one word in my head, depression. Loud, depression. And I looked at that thicket and I'm talking to myself. Now I'm in my head, all right? And I'm like, that's your depression right there. And it's this huge 100 feet tall fucking trees. And it's me in this open clearing. I mean, it looks like a hole at the golf course. It's so beautiful. I'm sitting on a hammock and I'm looking at this. It's almost like Forrest Gump. And I'm like, yep, there it is right there. And I'm like, come on. And as I'm asking all this trauma to open up on me, my brain knew I couldn't handle that. My brain totally knew. And I didn't know that. But I know my brain knew it because all of a sudden, all the branches of the trees became barbed wire. So as I'm fucking begging for my trauma to come get me and you call this a storm, Forrest Gump, you call this a storm, this ain't a storm, and it blocked me off because I wasn't ready for that trauma. And I didn't know that at the time. I totally didn't know that at the time. And I'm sitting there in distress, and who pops up? Josefina. She says, hi. That was it. I broke down, burst into hi. Ah! She goes, you look like you're in distress, totally in distress. She goes, another one, can I do an exercise? Her exercises are like, can I change your life? She might as well just like, hey, can I change your life for 10 seconds? Like, oh yeah, why did you change my life? And I want to say that at this moment in time, people are starting to have their trips, all right? And there were some very high balance trips going on there. And I was so excited for the people that were there. And hopefully if you could remind me, I would like to talk about the joys of what I witnessed later on. But for me, it wasn't that. I was in distress at this moment in time. And it's not a bad thing. At the time, I couldn't figure it out. And the staff, Jay was awesome, but Josefina right there. So she takes me down into the meadow, lays me down in the sun under a tree, and she starts rubbing my head. And I have the hallucinations in my head with my eyes closed. As she is rubbing my head, I start seeing an Indian warrior. It's just the face of the Indian warrior. And it's coming closer to me. It's almost like it's marble. Because I can see like the marbles, like if you've seen like white marble has like the gold flakes that roll through it, that was what I was seeing. And this face was just getting bigger and it was radiating. And it went from the white marble to like a pink color, to like a flesh color, to like a blood color. And it wasn't menacing. It was like pulsing with power. And she is just rubbing my head and I am feeling this power. And all of a sudden I just hear myself tell myself, yeah, John, this is all great, but this ain't for you. Not now. And I just burst into tears. I just start fucking crying. I am bawling. And of course, Josefina's like, talk to me. What's the matter? I'm like, I just can't let go. I just can't. And she's just like, shh, it's too soon. It's too soon for that. Just ride the ride. Just go. And she's massaging me. And I'm seeing this warrior in my head. And there's the trauma again. It does not want to be addressed. The trauma is very comfortable where it is and why it has to be wrapped up in its life, right? And now here's this unbelievably amazing woman giving me the power inside of me. And I still was ignorant to see that. I still couldn't see that what she was putting. She stopped rubbing me. The vision ended. And I know I wasn't, but I'm going to tell you, I was straight as a board. I felt that I was out of it. I was out of the trip, probably about 2 hours into it at this point in time. And then I felt like I was back amongst myself. So let me say it this way. What she gave me was so powerful. And I didn't know it at the time. I liken it to it would be like a 6-year-old trying to explain brain surgery. What she gave me at that moment in time was all I needed on that trip. And sleep was the next thing on my thing. But I didn't know it at the time. I was the person that at that moment in time said, this didn't work for me. I'm watching it work for other people. And that put me into an even deeper depression. I'm watching all these people. There's people screaming up into the mountains. There's people chasing the bubbles. The young mousy girl that was screaming like a lion that had a total transformation. I'm watching people transform in front of me. And in my mind, didn't work for me. First person to say, throw my feet in. No, I'm sorry, this didn't work. Hey, can I help you guys fold blankets and give out guacamole? I think I offered to be a part of the staff at one point in time. And I went back to the room. I skipped dinner. Went back to the room, called my wife. First, she's like, how was it? I'm like, yeah, well. She's like, you're depressed. I'm like, I'm not depressed. She's like, you're depressed. I start fucking bawling. I have a total mental breakdown in my room. And then I write, I'm getting my book right now. And then I write this. I hang up my wife and I write this in my log. You ready? I have to believe that I was given medicine meant specifically for me, prepared with thought and administered over a ritual. That medicine is in me and working, and I have to believe that. And then the next thing I wrote is, if I trust the staff, then maybe I'm not ready for the experience. And that's how I went to bed, in fucking pain, right? It's level 7 pain. It's not going away. My wife problems aren't going away. My family problems aren't going away. The fuck am I doing here, man? So I went to bed. I mean, I passed out, no dinner. You guys came in and lit my fireplace for me. Thank you. I needed that. And that Incan warrior went to work on me. I don't know if there's anything I should say. The Indian warrior went to work on me and fucking healed me. I just described my pain in my shoulder. I woke up the next morning. So I had just gotten the sling off 10 days early. So it was the first time I was able to put weight on my shoulder. And that was it making even more pain. It wasn't being supported. So every morning when I get up without the sling, I would put my right arm down and immediately pain would shoot through me and remind me I can't use my right arm yet. I got up that next morning after the macro dose, the one I said didn't work, right? Put my arm straight down, zero pain. My hand to God, as I talk to you right now, on my mother's soul, who's looking over us in heaven right now, zero pain. So level 7 pain, next day, zero pain. It wasn't the trauma that I needed to address. My mind decided it was the pain that I needed to address. And I needed to be out of physical pain before that I can even think about the emotional pain and even the headache pain or the tinnitus that I have every single day. The medicine was the brain surgeon, not me. And I thought I knew everything, and I didn't know shit. And the proof was in the pudding because I woke up the next morning and the first thing the entire group, who loves me, and I still talk to, I got, wow and wow. Wow, were you okay? We didn't see you at dinner last night. And then they looked at me and they saw that the pain beard that I had been growing for 5 months was gone. For the first time in 5 months. So when I tell you guys, pain was gone, and people might be listening and be like, oh, that can't be. I got up and for the first time could use my right arm to shave. I went there with a 5-month growth on my face. I looked like David Letterman, and anyone who looks him up now, you know what I'm talking about. I was able to get up and fucking shave. When I was going through the surgery and all the pain, my doctor asked me, he goes, what are you looking forward to do once you get the sling off and you're mobile again? I said, I'm looking forward to do just one thing, and that is just a big stretch. When you ball your fist up and you throw your arms out to the side like you're on a cross and you just stretch like there's no tomorrow? I hadn't been able to do that in 5 months. I've been able to do it with one arm, and it's just your body doesn't react the same to that. I got up, I stretched, I got in the shower, I'm fucking shaving. I didn't even have shaving cream. I'm using soap that you guys gave me. I probably nicked the crap out of myself. And people saw me the next morning. They were like, wow, what happened to you? And I'm like, I shaved the pain beard. They're like, are you okay? And I am like, I am godlike right now. I am in such good health. And I felt for the first time the energy in me coming back. I could hear it in my voice, how flat I was. Like I could just hear a spark of me coming back. And that was my macro dose. I would have told the world it was low valence. I would have told the world it wasn't for me. I would have told the world on the day of. And what I'll tell you now is I had no fucking clue what I was talking about.
I love your story so much because it really gives encouragement to what I hear a lot is the day of, people really do have this idea, oh, it didn't work. It's not for me. I knew it wasn't going to work. And so you said you moved into this experience that even went into the night, and then most of the magic happens in the following days to come. So that's incredible. So let's move on to what happened with your other psychedelic experiences, and did they stack on to that experience?
So while all this is happening, you guys are giving us all the scientific rundown on this stuff. You were showing us how to grow this stuff. You were showing us how to make a medicine going forward. So we are filled with a lot of confidence that, we're not just going to do snake oil or however you want to say it. So I am feeling so much better. I go down in the meadow pain-free. So now that I'm looking back on it, that allows me to start working on my trauma, right? I didn't think about that at the time, but now it does. So I'm the first person again. I'm the first DMT person. I was the first integration. Now I'm the first DMT person. So everybody's watching me take the long walk. We go down into the meadow under the tree by the church. So beautiful. And it's Josefina, Jessica, myself. Jay showed up later because I love that guy.
Wait, it was so funny when you said everybody's watching you do the long walk. Can you break down what that looks like?
We have this amazing, beautiful breakfast place, and it's this huge window that overlooks the long meadow, and you come out of the breakfast structure, the main structure, and you walk down, and there's this great little bridge that goes over this babbling brook, and then there's an even bigger meadow, and at the end of that, there's a small church-like structure, and then the ceremony's up to the left, but I mean, it's, several hundred feet, and we're all sitting in the breakfast area. Who's going to go first? I don't know, and we're running a little bit behind, I think. And I don't know. And all of a sudden, it's like, John, you ready? And it's like, everyone's like, ooh, John's going to the principal's office, right? And I just felt the eyes as I walked out of the building. Everybody's just watching me make that step. And let me say that once this was done, when I walked back, Jay's like, hey, do me a favor. He goes, you're a little bit raw right now. He goes, just keep walking and go up in the back and just hang out before everybody jumps on you and ask you how it was. And the one word that I just gave everybody was magical. So everybody was really excited to get their dosing. And so I do the long walk to the principal's office, which is, once again, anytime spent with Josefina, and then anytime spent with Josefina and Jessica. So let me tell you, that's the yin and the yang right there that you guys provide that is so fucking special, that it's going to put you guys above everybody else and every other healing retreat in the world. Josefina is the holistic. Jessica is the science. And sitting in between the two of them, let me just tell the story this way. So I sit down. I'm coming off the mushrooms, had worked for me physically, but I really didn't get that existential, hallucinatory trip at all. So I'm thinking this isn't going to work for me at all. So we sit down and I get the hot pipe and Josefina's holding it and Jessica gives it the flame. And before I had even finished the first, the pipe flickers and splits into three. And I just hear Josefina say, try a little more. And I couldn't. I said, no, I'm good. I blink. And the entire meadow, now, like I said, you're on a golf course. It's a billion trees around you. The entire meadow went albino. It didn't go white. It went albino. Every color literally just fell to the ground. And it was these living albino trees. And Jessica says, do you want to lay down? And I'm like, and the second she says that, her voice sounds like the voice in the Matrix when he touches the mirror. And there's an electronic voice, and she's like, do you want to lay down? And it went total electronically. And at that moment in time, the entire meadow burst into color. And I mean, like, it was radiating colors. And I mean, like, I can't explain what I mean. Like, that's what I mean. Like, it was burst. So I just said, you want to lay down? I'm like, fuck no, I do not want to lay down right now. I was tripping balls. But once again, Josefina, when she unzipped the first layer of me, DMT unzipped the second layer of me. And even though I was seeing the most beautiful colors in the world, my trauma came. My trauma came for me. And I broke. And without saying anything, Josefina, she hugged me so hard. And I just started talking about just some horrific things that had happened to me in my childhood that I've never told 3 people about in my life. And I'm telling 3 people now, Jay, Josefina, and Jessica, the 3 J's. And I'm telling them now, and I'm fucking bawling. And Jessica now, she's watching this happen. She jumps. So now I got the yin and the yang on each side. I got the holistic side. I got the scientific side on the other. And they are hugging me as hard as a person could be hugged. And I just let out sobs that should have come out of me 50 years ago. And it was just cathartic. It wasn't that ego death or anything else like that. It was just, there was a lot of shit that happened to me when I was young and it's okay now. And I never told myself it was okay. And just in that moment, it was just okay to let all guards down, let every guard down. And I got 10,000 guards on top of 10,000 guards squared. So DMT, scary ride, but man, it definitely unzipped that second layer. So the first layer would have been Josefina, put me in the mindset to be healed, being healed for the macro dose, and then the DMT just taking me down to what was the real problem that I couldn't address the day before. There was a podcast where somebody said, your podcast where somebody said, the macro dose shows you the wrinkles and the DMT smooths it out. That is very, very true in a certain sense with me. There were wrinkles that needed to be worked out before the real wrinkles could show up. And that's what DMT did for me the second day. But it was fucking horrifying. It was horrifying in its beauty. It wasn't horrifying that I was out of control or anything else. I couldn't have been in a more loving surrounding. I couldn't have been with more better people. I couldn't have been with more spiritual people, more knowledgeable people. And that experience just took me to the next level of healing that I never expected. Because at this point in time, I'm now telling these people every fucking problem I've ever had in my entire life. I expected the trip. I expected the mushroom trip. I expected the ceremony. I expected the beauty. I expected the unbelievable food where I lost 11 pounds. Let me say that again. I lost 11 pounds. I went from 188 to 177 while I was there. I tell people it's like I went to a weight loss camp and a psychedelic experience broke out. I swear to God, it was great. So, but it was healing on top of healing on top of healing. And it got better after that as well.
I imagine between all that, there's integration, there's work with Emilio. Was there stuff that was coming up that you really enjoyed in those processes?
I was enjoying watching the gentleman with the foot necropolis stand in the rain and feel the earth and become one. I was enjoying watching the woman that came in like a lion who looked like everybody in the entire world had abused her. She wouldn't say crap if her mouth was full of it. She was screaming like a lion. I watched her transformation from a caterpillar to a butterfly. It was insane. I'm trying not to say names because I don't want to out anybody. One name I will say, Ivan, being with Ivan and his wife was fucking transformative. Ivan had an experience. So everybody heard his podcast. And if you haven't, go listen to it. His second experience with us was even more. By the end of it, he's literally sitting at dinner like Zen Buddha with this smile on his face. You want to talk about the breakthrough? That guy had the breakthrough. And it took him 2 times to do that. So my enjoyment, and I want to tell everybody, these are people that have broken their backs 3 times. These are people that couldn't feel their feet anymore. These are people that have some of the most mental traumas going on. These are fibromyalgia people at 30 years old. These are people that have the worst pains and the worst situations. They're losing family members. They're losing their marriages like me. I'm watching these people have successes, and there's 14 of us, and not one of them didn't have some type of breakthrough. I'm watching this one woman who I speak to every single day now in a text. There's several of us that kind of in this group text. We talk every single day to support each other. And I watched her for 4 hours curl into a ball and cry for 4 hours. But yet when I know when she got home, she would have had more clarity in her life to do the things that she needed to do. I'm just in awe of who she is and the transformation that she made. So there's classes and there's food, and then we played games and we did all these great things. And we the poems, you reading the poems and just allowing us. I got to see 14 people. I got to see 13 other people at who they really were. I got to see people in a way their family and friends will never get to see them. And in the long run, that actually kind of creates a problem, because when they go back to real life, they've changed. Nothing in their life has changed, but they've changed. And that's kind of coming up as a theme for a lot of the group that I'm still hanging out with, because I've made lifelong friends. You cannot go through this situation and not make lifelong friends. And I'm concerned about them. They're in some scary situations in their lives, and you guys have given them some tools to deal with that stuff. And we as a group are dealing with that stuff. So a lot of the extracurricular stuff that I enjoyed there, before I go into my Swiffer flower story, is that the successes that 13 other people made around me. I had mentioned somebody had broken their back 3 times. The group, we were walking through the airport at the end, and the group watched her lithely. I don't even know if that's a word, lithely, just walk across the airport. I had just helped her with a bag, and I stood up and I looked deep in her eyes, and she had the greenest eyes that I had not seen. And I'm like, you look so clear and so happy right now. And she says, I feel like I can just walk across and she just walked across the floor. And there's 5 of us standing together like, holy shit, did you just see her? Because she was hunched over and crawling pretty much the entire time. I mean, it was a total transformation for 13 other people. You can't fake that. You can't. It was God's work. That's all I could say. It was God's work, period. And that's my experience.
Wow, Johnny, amazing. So now, I want to go into mini dose day. Did you have a higher dose for mini dose day since your experience, your first macro was short?
Yeah, they amped it up just a little bit more. But, I got to tell you, I was in such a better place physically and mentally. The pain had gone away. I had gotten that huge cry out of me that had been there for 50 fucking years. And let me tell you, people at home, there are cries in you. Life is about managing your smiles and cries. And I was not managing my smiles and cries. You guys, I came home and I wrote down, you guys taught me that it was beautiful, that I was beautiful. I was crying. I was not ugly when I cried like everybody told me growing up. So we go into the last day. Before we do the dose, Jessica comes up to me and says, the staff and I have talked about this, and we don't want you to leave here on the DMT dose that you did yesterday. We'd like you to try another dose today if you want to. And we'd like you to try it in the vape pen rather than the full hit that I took. And immediately I said, hell yeah. No, yeah. Immediately I was like, I would enjoy that. So she's like, okay, let's get is it a mini dose or a macro dose?
It was mini dose day.
Mini dose, because I say that wrong all the time and I apologize. So I do the mini dose and I am like light as a feather. It had started to kick in and it was really just like gliding on a hoverboard like Michael J. Fox in Back to the Future. I wasn't walking, I was gliding. And I remember saying to myself, dude, your fucking arm is swinging. You are swinging your arm. And that sounds like an everyday thing to people. Not for me. Not for 5 months. It was not swinging the arm because that was pain. That was pain. So I say, hey, do you guys mind if I go change my clothes? And you guys like, no, not at all. And because you're a bunch of people running around doing crazy stuff. And I go to my room and for whatever reason, I'm feeling so good. I decide not to leave through the door. I decide to leave through the window. And it is this huge picture window that looks up in the mountains. And it's an easy, I just step out. As I come back, I'm heading towards you. And I just see the most brilliant flower. And there's just nothing but Mexican forest there. And there's brilliant flowers everywhere. But I just see the greenest lime green flower and all this dark green forest I've ever seen in my entire life. And I say to myself, John, it's working, man. Your dose is kicking in. This flower is the most beautiful. You have to go take a picture of this flower. You got to check this flower out. So I'm really starting to feel the effects. And I float on over to that flower. And it was actually the Swiffer duster cleaner that was hanging on one of the trees that they had cleaned my room. And the Swiffer duster was hanging on the tree. So I thought it was a flower, right? So I take a picture of it and I walk up to you and you're like, so is it working? And I'm like, I'm pretty sure I think this is working. You're like, really? Why is that? And I show you the picture. I'm like, because I thought this was the most brilliant flower I've ever seen in my entire fucking life. And we started laughing. And it was cathartic because up to this point, every dose I had been traumatic, right? Ivan said it best. You can't want to deal with these traumas and then bristle at them when they come up in life, right? And this was the first time where I didn't have to have a traumatic experience to be able to be light and airy and to be able to laugh again. And that's what that dose had given me. I felt better, but the medicine had taken care of my pain. It had started to talk about my trauma. It allowed me that cry to breathe again because I had stopped breathing. As a human being, I had physically and mentally and holistically just stopped breathing. And like I said, I locked myself in the room 5 days before I got there. That dose just put me back. I felt alive again. And then when that had died down, Jessica said, come on, let's go take a seat. And she took me off. And I mean, it could have been 6 hours, but it was probably only like an hour. But she took me aside, away from the group, which I felt very special. And I appreciate that. And I apologize to the group if I took her away from you guys. But she gave me the vape pen and she let me take the DMT on my own level. And I don't know if you can hear my voice shaking right now. It was the second cry. So the first cry was with her and Eleusinia hanging off of me and just the biggest hug I ever had. And it started with, I'm glad I'm telling this story. This was the fucking magic for me. Ready? I take the hit and I get to mild hallucinations. It's more a warm and fuzzy thing. It wasn't the albino thing. It was way more comfortable, way more pleasurable doing it out of the vape rather than the straight hot pipe. So I started asking Jessica, I'm like, so what's it like running the place and everything else like that? She answers my question. She goes, I know that you're bullshitting me right now and you just don't want to talk about your own problems, right? And she yanked my fucking chain right there, yanked my chain, and I started talking about my problems. And it was the second cry. It was the next level. And I came in at 3 different levels of pain. You guys hit every single level of healing to put me out there. It's not her job to listen to the abuse that I put up with. It's not her job to listen to, you know what I'm saying? Like, I didn't expect any of that. You guys let me talk out generational traumas that I had. I didn't expect that. I expected the medicine. I expected the beauty. I expected all those things. I didn't expect you guys to be amazing. Just amazing human beings. Just amazing rays of light. Like, it was, I am forever changed for the experience. There's no doubt about that. There's no even thinking twice about that. My family notices that. My wife 100% notices that as well. So I was blessed. You guys were not going to let me leave there on a down note. You took extra time with me. You listened to every problem I had in life, and you guys put my feet back on the road. And that's a big deal.
That's amazing. And, I just want to go back to something that you said in the beginning. And you said, you came to me and you said, my nature doesn't match my nurture. So, like, what do you feel about that now, and how are you integrating at home?
So I'm the guy that has to have a microphone in his hand. So I'm a former executive host in a casino. And what that means is I was the guy that did all the giveaways. And my nickname used to be the guy, or the pizza guy, because he delivers. But I would get on stage in front of anywhere from 20 people to 2,000 people. I had all these players that were my players that I would host and everything else. Wouldn't call anybody. When I come home, I don't call. I don't have friends. I don't have anybody. I don't talk to neighbors. I don't get to know neighbors. It's yin and yang. It's either I'm performing or I'm not. And now, since I've come home, I took the neighbor to the hockey game the other day. I was out talking with them the other night. I'm calling friends I haven't talked to in a long time. I'm really reaching out and being more communicative and being less judgmental on myself. I'm allowing myself to have relationships, because with my past trauma, I just felt everybody wanted to use me for something. Everybody wanted to get a free, like right now, I run 8 bars in a casino on the Strip. Nobody wants to be my friend. They just want to use me for free drinks. When I was at the casino, it was everybody wanted to use me for a free meal. I always felt everybody had ulterior motives just because of the way that I was treated as a child. And now that I've cried that out, and I haven't cried all of it out, but now that I've cried a lot of that out, I'm accepting more of people being people that want to help me and want to have a better version of me than maybe I have of myself. Or maybe the people who raised me had a certain version of me, and I'm not that version now. You guys really helped me. I had written some stuff down. I had some quotes, like the one I told you earlier was like, I'm not ugly when I cry like they told me. Like, I've come to realization, and I hope that I can do this without shutting you off. Just to read you some of the quotes. It's like the inner dialogue has switched and more common sense has crept in than emotion, meaning sometimes you just have to say, what the fuck? And what that comment was is, I'm not letting every little thing ruin my day. Everything is balanced. Pay attention. Pick your nose. And what that meant is I have a deviated obsession. My nose is crutched on one side. I can only breathe out one side. If you looked at me and I'm picking my nose, you would judge me. Hey, look at that guy picking his nose. But for me, picking my nose is a balance. It helps me open up and breathe. So instead of feeling awkward, it's a way to say that everything has balance. Pay attention. Even the littlest things that you do can create breath in your life. The voice stronger in my head than in my vocals. Being home is exhausting if you do it right. It's tough work breaking mental high rises, but they are coming down now, and a view I've forgotten of happiness seems to be peeking over the top of the rubble of fallen tears. And for the first time I have ever looked forward to the work in front of me, the work of accepting and healing. I came home and you guys talked about being raw. I cried for like 7 hours straight from like 3 a.m. to 10 a.m. and just all these amazing things. I'm starting to hear more compassion around me. The funny part is that the sounds I hear are coming from inside where that flower has never bloomed. Maybe sunshine today? Maybe. The next one. Who told me to keep the tears inside, fucking liars? Crying is not my ugliness, it was theirs. That's a good one. And what I've evolved into, just imagine having all the street knowledge in the world without the hate and hurt it took to learn it through your thick skull. Another one, I felt good. I said it out loud. My wife noticed I had never said that out loud. It's only been 20 years next month. Something's changed. And that's some of the things that I was feeling when I got home. That's raw. You guys said raw. It was raw. And it was the best cries I've ever had.
Wow, Johnny, those are just so beautiful. I wrote some of them down. I'd like you to email them to me, the rest of them. But the other thing I wanted to ask you is I wanted to see, like, you have a lot of things going on with the headaches and the pain. And did you feel prepared to set up with a continued practice at home? How are you feeling and what's that looking like with what you gained with working with us?
So I did not. I wanted to use an excuse and say that my ADHD doesn't allow me to do this, that, or the other thing. So I did not have a plan, but this is where you guys come through again. Your aftercare. So I'm doing integrations with you in the group. But to me, Emilio, I started doing Emilio's breathing classes. And that shit, you pay top. The kids in New York are paying top dollar for that crap. You know what I'm saying? And we just get online, the Mighty Network with you guys. And it's like I'm back there with you guys. It's the greatest thing in the world. So no, I hadn't planned, but because I'm sticking with my group, we have a group text. And then in an offshoot of that, there are 3 or 4 of the ladies that we talk every single day because they're in a place where, so this is the thing. And what I'm trying to create, people that are going to try this, first of all, do this. Somebody asked me if I would recommend this. I think I put down on like Google or Yahoo. Every human being owes it to themselves to try this, first and foremost. And then the next thing is you will come back a different person. You will be in the same situation, but you'll be a different person. And what I'm trying to do now and what people are doing for me is we're trying to provide support because I'm very lucky. My wife has been very supportive about this, but there are others in our group, their other half are not supportive. And they want to be able to do aftercare. So I've already dosed, and it wasn't a pleasant dose. And once again, the anxiety cut me up, and I had to wake my wife up. I thought I was going to do it by myself in the quiet. I'd set my room up and all, and that was the worst thing I could have did. And I woke her up, and she was very accepting of what was going on. And there aren't others in our group who are like that. So right now, we have the support group going on between us. We talk every day. When one of us doses, we do cross texts, we do cross phone calls and stuff like that, because they don't feel they're either alone in their home and they don't have anybody to look after them. And I know the anxiety better than everybody else. Most of my trips have not been the best in the world, even though, listen, the whole trip thing is like this for me. It's like going on an airplane. I get airsick every time I go on the airplane. I know I'm going to get sick. That's not going to stop me from getting on the plane. I still got to get to Mexico City. I still got to get there. So I'm going to be sick. It's going to tear me up. But the getting where I need to be is what the real fucking journey is. And right now, we're trying to create group atmosphere for aftercare for those who don't have the security to be able to do it right. See where I'm going with that? So I've had a bad trip, and that group was right there for me. We've had another member of the group had a really good trip, had a really good experience, and we were cross-talking and having fun the entire time. So no, I did not plan to do any of that. I plan on going, the lonesome stranger, going on my own way, and you guys just have too much love. There is too much love for me to walk away from. There are too many special people. There are too many people that need my help. There are too many people that I've had I was transformed right in front of them. The bus ride up was strangers. The bus ride home was brothers in arms that I would go to war with. So the aftercare has been caring for those around me as they care for myself. And that's something also not in the brochure.
Wow. Thank you so much, Johnny. That was fantastic. Was there anything else that you didn't get to say that you really wanted to mention on this podcast?
Oh, that would be the wrap up. Let me say to every human being, you need to try this. For those of you that think, I don't like to be out of control of my body or anything else like that, never felt, except for a few minutes for that DMT trip, that everything kind of went a little albino on me. I was never out of control. Put your fears down. If you are stuck in life, you need to go to Eleusinia. The exercise in there, the I come from exercise that you had me do, it started off with I come from dirt. And it ended with, but today I come from Eleusinia and it's a new day. And I don't have to be any of those things of the past. You guys gave me a new day. You guys took my pain away and you gave me a new day. And I will forever be grateful for you guys. And listen, I need everybody who wants to be a better human being to go to this place. I want everybody who wants to meet better human beings to go to this place because the people there are fucking angels. And I want those people there who crave a holistic experience in their life. I want people who think that there is no magic in this world to go meet Josefina, okay? I am daring you right now. You don't think there's magic? You go do one of her ceremonies. You spend 10 seconds with her, and I'm telling you, change your life, all right? Simple as that. So I guess that's what I'm saying with tears in my eyes. I fucking love you guys, and my family loves you because my wife now tells people it's like when she first met me. So not like when we first got married And then, like the first day she met me, when I just wanted to impress her and love her and all that, she feels that I'm that guy again. So I left here, 5 days in the room, stepped back from the family, in total pain. I come home and I'm the old John that everybody loves. That's my story.
Wow, Johnny, thank you so much for your incredible story and all your truth and opening up. And you're such a badass, and I'm so proud of you. Thank you so much for coming to the show.
Hey, it's the least I can do. But before I go, do I get a chance to say to you, I wanted to ask you a question. What would you like to say on top of the magical work that you do? What would you say to people as far as people that put brakes on that say, I wouldn't go there because of X? You've seen so many transformations. You watch 14 transformations in one day. Like, what would you tell everybody about what you see from a group coming in as opposed to a group that leaves?
Well, Johnny, thank you for asking me that question. Nobody's ever asked me that question before. I want to say to the world is that I feel like this work is the most incredibly important thing that I've ever done, because I don't think Western medicine gives mature, educated adults enough credit for taking their health and their mental health back. What I want to say is like what it feels like to be me, to give you back that basketball of your own empowerment to play the game. When you write the rules of the game, you create the practice, and we just give you a skill set. Nothing in the world feels better than that, because I came from a place too where I was, dependent on Western medicine for mental health, for physical health, was put on multiple meds that had side effects that I didn't understand. So like when I get to see these people walk away with everything that they have to make it forward, knowing that the work is hard as hell, but they're brave enough to do it anyway, I can't tell you what that feels like. And your description of like, it's like getting on the plane, getting airsick, but knowing you got to get through it. I dose monthly still. And I do it because, it's the best medicine I've ever had. And taking charge of my mental health, taking that back and living a life of my dreams now, and watching others do the same, and then having this community become my community. There's just no words.
Yeah, I thoroughly agree. And, the sharing that you guys did of where you came from and then the experiences that you've had me in tears like 9 different times while I was up there. So the caringness as well. And that's why I say to everybody in the world, you want to be a better person, or you want to meet better people, or you want to have that experience. Your story, Jessica's story, just everybody there. I love you guys. Thank you for giving my life back. I really appreciate it. I can't thank you enough.
Well, thank you so much, Johnny.
Thank you all so much for listening. You can find all the information that you need to learn everything about this retreat on eleusiniaretreat.com. We are a retreat that offers ongoing integration support, breathwork classes, and cultivation support after you have attended this retreat. It's an amazing experience that's one of its kind. If you're looking for a science-based retreat, something out of the box, something to change your life, something to add to your practice, this is where you really need to start. eleusiniaretreat.com.